What's up? How's it going? It's the boy Don Soyce in the morning or the evening, depending on where and when you are right now. Today I'm going to be coming at you with a new video. It's going to be What If Kushina and Minato Survived Part 2. And today we're going to be going over the entirety of the Land of Waves arc, with a little extra something to the story at the end. And today is probably going to be like a longer video. So yeah. If it should be a longer video, so snuggle in, get comfortable, and yeah, let's hop right into it. Last time, we ended the video off seeing Nagato knocking on the door of the Namikaze household, being greeted by Kushina. "Oh, hello, Nagato," Kushina said. "What are you doing here?" He told her, "Well, as you know, I was away from the village for a bit with Jiraiya Sensei. Well, when we got word that Naruto had graduated, he had me come back to see you and the family and send his regards. He intends to possibly come to the village soon, but he doesn't say, put your entire hope in it." Kushina then invited him in, and he was welcomed by Naruto and Minato. Nagato told Naruto, "So, there's something Jiraiya wanted me to give you for graduating." Hearing that, Naruto started getting excited, and then what was pulled out was 3 balloons. 1 rubber, 1 water, and 1 regular. Naruto was miffed and said, "Did Gramps really only give me balloons for graduating?" Minato just smirked as he put his hand on his son's shoulder and said, "Actually, Naruto, these types of balloons were how Nagato was taught to use the Rasengan." Hearing that, Naruto got super excited. Nagato told him that he'd help Naruto learn the technique. That was the gift that Jiraiya had sent. "Speaking of learning techniques," Minato said, "Lord Third said he'd teach you the Shadow Shuriken Jutsu if you wanted." Hearing all this, Kushina then bonked Naruto on the head and said, "You better not get too caught up and stop working on basic skills training with me." At all this, Naruto jumped in excitement though, as learning new techniques and jutsu was his favorite pastime. Then, as time went by and Team 7 started going on missions, Naruto was constantly trying to train and was loving it. He trained with Nagato, and while trying to learn their Sengan, he kept balloons on him and would just stash them during his missions. While doing stuff like hunting cats, he tried to use the flying Raijin. He'd also find time to train with his parents. He would take Hiruzen up on his training, and Hiruzen would still be on the village council, and he would eventually get taught the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, and he'd get in cardio from running from Konohamaru and his friends, who would know how strong Naruto was, and they would want to make him their boss. Sasuke would keep grinding like usual, and he would make sure that he could try and outdo Naruto and Itachi. Itachi and Fugaku would train Sasuke themselves as much as they could. Fu would also be training hard, since after seeing the power her teammates exhibited, she'd ask Kakashi to give her some one-on-one training to try and catch up to him. She'd also train hard by herself. She'd do strength and acrobatic training, and with Kakashi it'd be ninjutsu training, and she'd also be taught some genjutsu. During the training, she would also find out that she could use fire-style jutsu, and she would be trained to learn the fireball jutsu. The entire team would be progressing pretty well. Then, Kakashi told his team that he filed for a C-rank mission, saying he knew how capable his team was, but he wanted them to taste being the lowest of the proverbial food chain for a while. Close to this, Nagato told Naruto that soon him and Yahiko would be going on a mission together, and they'd be putting a pin in their training for a while. Naruto wasn't mad though. So, Nagato left, and Naruto went back to his place to have his mom help him work on a seal that he was developing. Then it was time. Team 7 was going on their first C-rank mission, and Nagato was leaving on a mission as well. Nagato and Yahiko. Team 7 waited, and Minato had Tazuna brought in. When he saw the team, he insulted them and said, "A bunch of kids? Dumb kids are supposed to be my protection." As the Genin heard that, they got angry. Then, when Naruto and Sasuke heard that, they sped behind Tazuna's back and then held the tips of their kunai to his back. and Fu flipped onto his shoulders and forced him to smile by tugging on his face and said, "You know, you might be a little less of a grumpy old man if you would just smile more often." Minako called the gunning off and said, "As you can see, Mr. Bridge Builder, these kids are extremely capable for only so recently becoming ninja." Tazuna broke out into a little sweat and said, "Yeah, okay." Kakashi told his team that they were going to be escorting Tazuna as his bodyguards to make sure nothing happened. They then set off. As the team was walking, two tuning level ninja known as the Demon Brothers appeared from out of nowhere and ambushed Kakashi, seemingly killing him. Everyone was surprised except Naruto, who said, "No way Uncle Kakashi's dead. But still, might as well take care of this." He then stretched out and said, "Sasuke, you take the one on the left and I'll take the one on the right." Sasuke scoffed and said, "I'll take care of this loser, no problem." The two rushed at the ninja and were both able to defeat them with ease. Fu was glad they took him out, but she then voiced out that she was still concerned that they took out Kakashi, and he actually popped out from his hiding spot and said, "Don't worry, Naruto was right. I'm okay." Fu was relieved, and then Kakashi directed his attention to Tazuna, telling him that there's no way that this could be a C rank. Tazuna then confessed that he filed for a C rank mission because that was all his village could pay for, but they desperately needed the protection so they could get their bridge built. Kakashi asked his team what they wanted to do, and they said that they were fine with completing the mission, so they kept on. As they kept going, Naruto sensed something and threw a kunai. It turned out that he had just narrowly missed a little bunny. But then Fu bombarded him that he almost killed a cute little rabbit, but Naruto came to the same conclusion that Kakashi did, and it was that that type of rabbit wouldn't be located where they were, and that it was most likely supposed to be used for a substitution. He then yelled out, "Kakashi-sensei! We're getting ambushed!" After he said that, a demon wind shuriken flew at them, and they were able to duck out of the way. Zabuza then appeared, standing on his sword lodged in a tree, and said, "Well, well, it seems that not all leaf brats are totally inept. That one seems to have some good instincts." Kakashi then tells his team to stand back, and he reveals his Sharingan. Kakashi would be stronger here thanks to more training with his Minato, but the fight between them would kind of just be pretty similar. Also, Sasuke would know about Kakashi's Sharingan at this point, probably being told by Itachi about it. The two would continue to fight until Kakashi would be put in a situation where Zabuza was about to trap him in the water prison jutsu. Before he could though, Kakashi got his body just above the water and then made the water start to spiral, which caused Zabuza to fall through. Kakashi stood up on the water and then raised his hand. He revealed a Rasengan that he then made dissipate. Zabuza then pulled himself onto land and said, "What was that?" Kakashi just told him, "You don't have to worry about that. What you should be worrying about." He then started forming something in his hand that started sparking and spiraling. "Is this the jutsu that my master helped me complete?" He then covered his eye up and Zabuza said, "What? No need for Sharingan anymore?" "Not for this jutsu." He was making a Rasengan, but he was forming it with lightning. And the lightning, it was contained, but you could still see it spiraling around inside the orb. It began to keep spinning faster and faster as Kakashi ran at Zabuza and he yelled, "Rasen, storm!" Before he could make contact though, two needles did with Zabuza's neck, and he fell over, dropping his blade. A ninja with a mask made their presence known and declared that they were a hunter ninja who had been looking for an opportunity to kill Zabuza and bring his corpse back to the mist. As he was explaining this, Naruto walked over to Zabuza and checked his pulse and felt that he really was dead. He then said, "While you do seem impressive, you weren't needed. You can have the body, but we're taking this as the spoils for the leaf." He was referring to Zabuza's executioner's blade. As he went to pick it up, the hunter threw a needle at Naruto's hand. He then jumped in front of him and said, "Do not touch the sword." Naruto glared at him, and then looked at his finger. It had a small wound that he licked, and then it was gone. He then argued, "You did get the final hit, but Uncle Kakashi did the actual work. The mist can have the body, but the leaf deserves something out of this. I'm taking the sword in the name of the Hokage and the leaf." He once again reached for the sword, but this time he was kicked away. After seeing this, Kakashi appeared behind the Nin using body flicker and said, "You know, at first I was inclined to just let you take Zabuza and his sword, but you wanted to mess with my team, and now it seems I do want the blade." The Nin then threw a senbon at Kakashi, which he narrowly dodged, and then they threw multiple in a circle, making Naruto and Kakashi have to back up and dodge. The Nin then said, "It seems I won't be able to get out of this without a fight." He then revived Zabuza and told him, "Master, get up. I tried to covertly get us out of this situation, but it seems like that won't be an option." Zabuza grunted as he got up and said, "What a pain. Help me in this quickly, Haku." Haku was about to help Zabuza up, but he then suddenly heard, "Take this!" It was Naruto, who had jumped at Haku and punched him in the face. Hard. The punch sent Haku fumbling back and left his mask broken. Zabuza was about to step in, but Kakashi appeared in front of him, Sharingan away, and said, "It appears we have some unfinished business." Zabuza propped himself up onto his feet with his blade and said, "So, still no Sharingan." He got a reply of, "We may both be tired from our earlier match, but at least I didn't die just now." The two then rushed at each other. Meanwhile, Naruto stood before Haku, prepared to fight, but then his mask fell off as Naruto broke it with his punch, and it revealed his face. He then saw his face and thought, "Whoa, I thought that was a dude. It must have been a part of the disguise. She's actually even prettier than Fu." He then said aloud, "I didn't think you were a girl." Haku then looked him in the eye and said, "Makes sense. I'm a boy." Naruto then had a dazed look on his face as a senbon was thrown his way, but then was deflected by a kunai. It was Sasuke. He yelled, "Get your head out of the clouds, Naruto!" He did, and then he shook his head to get out of his trance, and then thought about what just happened and looked down. He told Sasuke, "Thanks for that. Looks like I fell for the trap." Sasuke was confused and told him that there was no trap, but Naruto looked directly at him and said, directly at Haku as he rushed towards him and yelled, "Yes, there was! I'm looking right at him!" As the two genin rushed forward at their enemy, Haku knew that he had to end things quickly so he could get to his master, so he surrounded his enemies with his crystal ice mirrors. He sunk into one and then got a senbon. He targeted Naruto first and attacked. Before the weapon could even make contact though, Sasuke grabbed Naruto and then spread its two wings, flying away. Seeing this, Haku increased the height of his jutsu and cut Sasuke off before he could escape. He then told Naruto, "Well, loser, seems like we'll have to fight our way out. Shouldn't be a problem though. See, these two wings are equal to 2 tails of my tail beast power." Naruto rolled his eyes and told Sasuke to not get cocky. Naruto then was dropped onto the ground and he landed on his feet. Haku came at the two, but unlike in the original, he came at them with closer to his full power. Normally he'd want to hold back, especially when it's someone like Naruto, who he clearly saw had someone precious to fight for in Kakashi and maybe in his village, but he had to make sure Zabuza was okay because he was pretty much on the brink of death, and the fact that he just did die kind of temporarily didn't help him. Sasuke then activated his Sharingan and tried to dart around and avoid Haku's attacks, but even with 2 tails in the Sharingan, Haku's speed was still a problem. Naruto faced a similar problem. He had Kurama give him some chakra, using the reasoning that when he dies, even though Kurama would come back, he'd still have to roll the dice on his next Jinchuriki, and Naruto was probably more fun and bearable than anyone else that the Nine Tails might inhabit, or rather Kurama, since of course he would know his name and I actually already did Sakurama. Anyway, Naruto had, at this point, had enough. Oh yeah, anyway. As the getting sped up, so did Haku. Naruto at this point had had enough. He then thought to try that. He charged up some lightning in the palm of his right hand, and then had Sasuke pick him up, telling him he had a plan. Seeing as they didn't have a lot of options, Sasuke flew up and asked, "Now what?" Naruto told him to keep surveilling the mirrors and to point him in the right direction and yell when he saw Haku was about to move. Sasuke kept observing, and then he saw Haku about to jump from one mirror to another and yelled, "There!" as he threw Naruto. Haku was leaving the mirror he was in, and Naruto, with his hand that was covered in electricity, grabbed a kunai from his pouch and then threw it. It was a flying Raijin kunai. He then thought, "Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Nagato," as he formed a Rasengan in his right hand. He then appeared right beside Haku, clutching his kunai in his left hand and yelled, "Rasengan!" He shoved his attack into his enemy's side. Haku, as strong as he was sent spiraling through one of his mirrors. Everyone's attention was directed to Haku as he was seen falling to the ground, and they walked over to see if he was down for the count. Sasuke grabbed Naruto, who was falling to the ground, and Naruto looked at him and smiled, giving him a thumbs up. "Thanks, Sasuke. Couldn't have done it without you." Sasuke's first thought when he saw Haku get taken down was him wondering how strong Naruto was. But when he gave him a smile and a thumbs up, the response he gave was, "Yeah, looks like you'll actually give me some good competition to the race to becoming Hokage. Right back at you. Though, I'm totally gonna be the next Hokage." Even though they were both tired from the fight, the two still found energy to argue. They then got out of the array of mirrors and set their sights on their fallen foe, and followed to where his eyes were. It was at Kakashi, who had Zabuza slung over his shoulder. When Haku saw his master's body, battered and bloody, he asked Naruto to come close. He did, with Sasuke following suit. When he did, Haku asked Naruto to finish him off, as he had no reason to live with his master Zabuza dead. Naruto of course refused, especially when he didn't have the same reasons to harbor hate towards Haku, since he didn't think Sasuke was dead. Kakashi then walked over and said, "Naruto's right. There's no need for that. In fact, your master is still clinging to life." Haku's eyes widened and then he came close. No, Haku's eyes widened and then he closed them, and he had a glad/relieved look on his face and passed out. Naruto was about to go and pick him up, but Fu stopped him, saying that he already fought and she told him she'd carry him, since it was the least she could do when she didn't fight at all. Before that, though, she pulled in Tazuna and her team and yelled, "Mission well done! Go Team 7!" She then gave them a big wide smile. Sasuke then asked her, "Tell me, Fu, why are you this comfortable around us? Me and Naruto have definitely gotten some looks from adults throughout our lives, and parents probably tell their kids to be wary of us. The fact that I'm with Uchiha doesn't really help our situation. You aren't super flirty or airheaded, and you're actually just genuine and kind." Fu just smiled and said, "We're friends, and you guys are fun to be around, even if you can get pretty emo, Sasuke." They all laughed, and then they went to Tazuna's place. They brought Haku and Zabuza with them, and Tazuna would tell Inari and his daughter about what Team 7 was able to do, which would lead the kid to not talking crap, and he would actually be impressed. The bridge then would resume construction. Team 7 would stick around to look out for Gato sending more men, and they'd help build the bridge. They'd also have Zabuza and Haku help build it, Haku not really minding, and Zabuza having to be forced. Kakashi would end up talking to Zabuza and he'd ask what his goals were, and the plan to overthrow the Mizukage was explained. Team 7 would be introduced to tree walking, but Naruto and Sasuke already have learned that, and Fu would have gotten the first try, so they were taught water walking instead. Fu would keep training her fire style. A week later, Gato would realize that Zabuza and his sidekick wouldn't be coming back. He then decided to take matters into his own hands. Hearing that headway was being made on the bridge and that there might be ninjas there, he took a bunch of hired thugs with them to instill fear and obedience into the villagers and destroy the bridge. As he did, his men would advance towards the village, and a villager would spot them and go back to warn the rest of the village. Team 7 would hear about this and they'd run to fight. Inari would shout, "Are you guys crazy? You can't fight all those guys!" Naruto would just smirk at the kid and say, "Don't worry about us. The Leaf's gonna beat those guys no matter what." They then ran to fight, bringing along Zabuza and Haku as extra muscle. Zabuza won his sword, but Sasuke just tossed him a kunai and said, "I'm sure you can make it work, devil." They were able to catch up with Gato and his men. When Gato saw his clients working against him, i.e. Zabuza and Haku, he got really angry, yelling at them that they were foolish to betray him. Zabuza bluntly said, "Well, I may have been forced to do it, but I did do a lot of work on that bridge myself. I'm not gonna let some bratty midget and his thugs let that work be for nothing." He then rushed towards the thugs with his kunai, but Kakashi, thinking he could give Zabuza a break, threw a scroll to him that contained the sword, to which he brought out. Gato started to sweat, but then said, "You six can't beat all these guys." A voice then shouted out, "Then it's a good thing there's more than 6 of us." It was Inari, who, after seeing the bravery of the Leaf Ninja, rallied his village together and they ran to aid in the battle. The ninja then began to lead the assault. The thugs were decimated. As Zabuza ran towards Gato, he looked at him as he swung his sword and said, "Go to hell. A little guy like you might want to make some friends, 'cause I hear it's a nasty place." He then slashed the mob boss in two, and then he grabbed whatever cash or valuables off of him and any other of the corpses of those punks. After this, all was well. Team 7 stuck around for finishing the finishing and naming of the bridge, which was named the Great Leaf Bridge in order to honor the kindness and bravery of the shinobi that visited their village. Kakashi let Zabuza keep his sword, but still took him and Haku back with him and kind of treated them as prisoners until they got back to the village. And he said he would put in a good word for them though after they did help him. The 6 then set off to the Leaf. We then cut to Nagato and Nahiko's mission. That was going around Team 7 versus Zabuza, the first fight. Well, yeah, it was going around Team 7 versus Zabuza and Haku. The two were walking through the woods at night, and then they heard rustle in the bushes. They then both threw kunai towards the sound. They checked it out, but found nothing. They then felt an incoming heat and turned around to see a fireball coming at them, and they jumped in opposite directions to avoid the attack. The fireball then made the area around them catch fire, and it made up a wall between them of sorts. Nagato was about to put it out using a water style jutsu, but a kunai that he was able to dodge flew right past his head. He turned around and yelled, "Who's there?" Someone then appeared from the bushes. It was someone he had seen before. Seeing him made him furious. It was the man that had infiltrated the Leaf 12 years ago and murdered his mother. "Hello, Nagato. Been a while." At the sight of him, Nagato got furious and rushed at him full speed, but the man seemed to have disappeared in the thin air. Nagato looked around for him and shouted, "Where did you go? You're dead!" He then heard another voice that said, "Kind of like your friend." Nagato looked, and he saw Yahiko get thrown over the flames. He ran over to him, and he said he'd heal him with the King of Hell. Before he could, though, Shuriken flew through the flame, and then got lit on fire, so he had to jump away. He then saw someone walking through the flame. It was someone with long, dark red hair, in an orange spiral mask that was brandishing a big sword, one that kind of looked like Ginjo's from Bleach. He then ran at him, but Nagato transformed his arm into a cannon and shot at him. The man didn't waver though, as he kept running and the blast went right through him. He pumped a bunch of electricity through his sword, and he yelled, "Thunder Slash!" as he swung it. A huge slash of lightning flew at Nagato, but he was able to make a force field using the powers of the Diva Path, and he was able to protect himself. The man with the orange mask complimented him, saying, "Good job protecting yourself. Too bad you couldn't protect your friend as well as you did yourself." He then jumped towards Yahiko on the ground and stabbed him in the stomach. When Nagato saw this, he broke. His eyes widened and he yelled out as power erupted from him. He then was about to run at the man who just stabbed his best friend, but then a kunai appeared from out of nowhere and cut his throat. He fell to his knees and started to bleed out. He then, from the corner of his eye, saw he was cut by the yellow masked man, who we know as Obito, and then he was approached by the orange mask wearer. "You're strong, Nagato. Your Achilles heel, though, is that you have an uncontrollable rage when you get mad enough, and it makes you sloppy. Well, cheers." The man then raised his sword, and then lowered it, stabbing Nagato. Obito walked towards his accomplice and said, "Nice job, King. Do you think everything's going as planned in the leaf?" He got a response of, "The snake is a capable one. He's probably already done." We then cut to a jail located in the Uchiha district. We see multiple ninja unconscious on the floor as a man in an Akatsuki robe walks to a certain cell. The man in the cell then asks the assailant, "What business do you have with me, Orochimaru?" Orochimaru donned his snake grin and said, "I want to make you an offer, but first, let's break you out of here so we can talk somewhere nicer. Donzo." Alright, so that's going to be the end of the episode. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that kind of longer than normal episode. And yeah, so comment down below how you liked it. Check out my other stuff if you like what you saw. And if you like what you really see on my channel, consider subscribing. Like this video, turn on notifications if you are subscribed. Share, tell your auntie, your mama, and your granddaddy. And like I already said, check out my playlist if you haven't already. Well, if you watch this whole thing and didn't watch the other parts, it's kind of weird, but whatever. There's something else I wanted to say. Oh yeah, comment down below what you think's gonna happen with Zabuza and Haku, and also who this mysterious king person is. Comment your theories down below, and yeah, I'll be seeing you later. Ciao.